All right, so here we go. We're going to deal with the unit of utility, and our ultimate goal is to decipher what utility maximization or the utility maximization rule. Ultimately, what we're going to be talking about is what is behind the demand curve. We are going to try to quantify levels of satisfaction and take a look at the economic model that deals with how do we deal with our demand. Demand equals marginal benefit. Keep that in mind. Utility is defined as levels of satisfaction. So that being said, let's dive into this. Boom. All right. First thing we want to know is this idea of consumption possibilities. Now, you may remember way back when we dealt with production possibilities. Well, now we're going to look at the flip side. Since we're dealing with demand, we are dealing with consumers and consumption. So a budget line is consumption possibilities, and this should be pretty straightforward. You get your paycheck, and using your paycheck, you have to pay for certain things. You have to pay your car insurance, your phone bill, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what you got to take a look at is how much money do you have, and how are you going to distribute that money amongst your expenditures? And the restrictions or the possibilities of dividing up that money is your consumption possibilities. In the common lingo, we're dealing with budgets. Okay, so one of the things that we want to take a look at or refresh our memory of is this idea of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the second best alternative sacrificed when making a choice. In this particular case, we want to understand relative price of items. Now we're going to use our simplified economic model to do this. So let's simplify. Let's say that there are two products that you want to purchase, gum and water. Now, given gum and water, we want to look at this in terms of relative price. How much water do I sacrifice when I buy gum? How much gum do I sacrifice when I buy water? So, if gum is 50 cents a pack, if I buy 1 unit of gum, that equals 1/2 of a unit of water. If I'm going to buy water, let's say I buy 1 bottle of water, which costs me $1, that is equal to 2 packs of gum. 2 packs of gum at 50 cents each is $1. 1 bottle of water is $1. So 1 water equals 2 gum. That's the idea of relative price. Okay, so that's kind of our starting point. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward, bringing back some old ideas, some old calculations. Let's move forward. Okay, this is taking our consumption possibilities and looking at it in a graph form. So we have our gum at 50 cents each. We have our water at $1 each. As we saw that on the other screen. What we've added here is a budget. So you have budgeted $4 of your paycheck to buy gum and water. So what we want to do is we want to assess what are the different possibilities of consumption given your budget. Well, if gum is 50 cents each, I can buy 8 units of gum, but 0 water. If water is $1 each, I can buy 4 units of water and 0 gum. And that's sticking with my $4 budget. The line represents all the different possible combinations that I can purchase given my $4 budget and these 2 price tags. These things can change depending upon 2 different things. This consumption possibilities lines can change if your budget changes. So if I wind up with a budget of, let's say, $2 instead of $4, I'm going to wind up, so get rid of the $4, put $2 in there. I can buy 4 gum or 2 water, which means consumption possibilities has shrunk. If you reduce people's income, you reduce their budgets. You reduce their budgets, you reduce their consumption possibilities. And we see that the line shifts inward. Obviously, if we're going to increase somebody's income, let's say up to $5, I can get 10 gum, 5 water, and I can increase consumption possibilities. So we can change the budget. The next thing we can do is change the price tag. So let's say that gum we change to $1 each. Water remains $1, no change with water. So given a $4 budget, I can get 4 water or 4 gum, which means our consumption possibilities curve changes its slope. So there are 2 ways to change consumption possibilities. We can change our budget, or we can change the price tag of the products. Again, we're just dealing with some basic concepts here that will lead to other things in a moment. All right, moving on. Now we're going to get into the idea of utility. And we'll go back to the whole budget thing and consumption possibilities and plug that in just a moment. But now we're going to kind of step aside. We're going to take a look at utility. Now, you may remember from earlier lessons that utility is a measure of personal satisfaction, not usefulness. Well, usefulness, it could be usefulness, but we don't want to restrict ourselves to usefulness. We want to consider satisfaction. It may be a useless product, but if it brings you satisfaction, it brings you utility. 1 unit of utility is what we call a util. U-T-I-L. It's fun writing with the mouse. It's called a util. I didn't make up this word. So I will talk about utils, units of utility, in the next screen. So when you hear that word, you'll know what it means. 1 unit of utility is a util. Okay. There are 2 kinds of utility measurements we'll look at: total utility and marginal utility. And what we're going to essentially be doing is quantifying satisfaction. Personally, I don't care much for this unit because, I mean, how do you quantify, how do you put in numerical value units of satisfaction, an abstract idea of satisfaction? However, that's exactly what we're going to do. So let us see how this is done. Next screen. Okay. Ultimately, our goal is to discover, where's it at? Boom, I want this and then this. We want to discover the utility maximization, and we have to understand the rule. Marginal utility over price equals marginal utility over price equals marginal utility over price. X is one product, Y is another product, Z is another product. Now, what we're going to be doing is using simplified models. So we're not going to look at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different products. We're going to restrict ourselves to just 2 products. For example, X could be gum. I can't write with the mouse. Y for us is going to represent water. Water. Okay. So we're going to actually look at 2 different products. Gum was 50 cents. So we wanted to figure out, how do we get the marginal utility number over 50 cents? Water was $1 each, so we got to figure out how to calculate marginal utility, and we'll put that over $1, which is the price of water. We will do that here in just a moment. Things that we want to pay attention to, or questions we want to make sure we can answer. We want to know what happens to total utility as we increase our consumption. We want to know what happens to marginal utility as we increase our consumption. So these are 2 patterns or trends that we need to be aware of. When we deal with marginal utility, we're going to be dealing with the law of diminishing utility. So already you can logically assume what's going to happen to marginal utility as we increase consumption. Marginal utility is going to diminish or decrease. So as I consume my first unit, and then I move to my second unit, and then I move to my third unit, as I go from one unit to the next, marginal utility will decrease. Okay, so we'll see that numerically in just a moment. All right, so here are your numbers. All right, ignore what's in blue. Don't worry about what's in blue right now, except for the price tag. What I want to take a look at is the Q and the TU at this particular point. Now, since we are arbitrarily putting a numerical value to levels of satisfaction, the thing that you should be aware of is that this column of total utility will always be given to you. You will not have to create this set of numbers. These numbers will be provided for you. So don't worry about having to create your own set of numbers. Okay, so let's take a look at water. When I consume my first unit of water, I go from 0 to 1, I receive 15 units of satisfaction. So my first quantity of consumption, my total level of satisfaction is going to equal the marginal, remember that is per unit, marginal means per unit, my marginal level. Now when I consume my second bottle of water, that second bottle of water is going to give me another 12 units of satisfaction, which means I got 15 utils from my first bottle of water, plus another 12 utils from the second bottle of water, which means my total utility is 27. That includes all the satisfaction from the first bottle. If you drink a bottle of water and you receive satisfaction, when you drink a second bottle of water, it does not erase the satisfaction you have achieved from the first bottle. So total utility is going to constantly go up. Now we've answered the question. Total utility increases as consumption increases, as you can see here. We go up and up and up and up. Marginal utility is the assessment of the additional satisfaction gained when I consume an additional unit. So if total utility goes from 27 to 36 as I go from my second to my third bottle of water, that is an additional 9 units of satisfaction. That's your marginal utility. That's how you calculate marginal utility. You'll be given total utility. You look at the difference or the change in total utility over the change in the quantity consumed, and that yields your marginal utility numbers. Now, MU over P, very simple. Now we've calculated marginal utility. Let me change colors here. We've calculated marginal utility. You take 15 and you put it over the price tag, which is $1, which is 15. 12 marginal utility over the price tag, which is $1, equals 12, and so on. Gum, when I consume my first unit of gum, my total utility went up to 32. That is a marginal utility of 32. 32 over the price tag, which is 50 cents, over 0.5 equals 64. So as I go from 32 total utils to 48 total utils as I consume my second unit, that's another 16 marginal utility. That's 16 over 0.5, which is margin utility over price of 32. Boom. That's how you calculate it. 8 over 0.5, 6 over 0.5, 4 over 0.5, 2 over 0.5. Remember, 0.5 is the price tag of gum that's been given to you. Once we've calculated the margin utility over price of our two products that we are assessing, the next thing we want to do is we want to take a look at when they equal one another. So if you take a look at the MU over P column of water and the MU over P column of gum, we want to find when they match up. So we have a 12 here in water and a 12 here in gum. We also have a 4 here in water and a 4 here in gum. So they're going to match up in two different places, here and here. So what we want to do is we want to take a look at the quantities. So the first matchup would be 2 water, 4 gum. The second matchup would be 6 water and 6 gum. This is when the budget comes into play. I have a $4 budget. So we need to take a look at the price tags and see which combination we can actually do. So if water is $1 each and I buy 2 water, that's $2. If gum is 50 cents each and I buy 4 gum, that's $2. $2 plus $2, that's our budget. I can do that combination. However, if you take a look at the second combination that we have here, your 6 and your 6, I can't afford that. 6 units of water at $1 each is $6. I only have $4 to spend. That's not going to happen. So, MU over P equals MU over P. In this case, I would purchase 2 units of water and 4 units of gum, which will maximize my utility. If you add up the total utility to the total utility, those two numbers added together will yield the highest number of utils than any other possible combination. And there it is, the basics. We will see you in class.